Hey guys, welcome to Matty J Plays and welcome to my putting hints and tips guide. Now I should caveat this guys, if you're coming in here looking for a video that details specifically a number to hit or a number of presses on your cross key to move right or left, etc, some scientific theory for putting, you won't find that here. I always putt by feel, but there are a certain few hints and tips I feel can add value to any game, and those who watch my channel will know I make the majority of putts between 20 and 40 feet more often than not, so there is something to it. So let's get into it. We're going to start in your player archetype. So my player is a rhythm player, so my putt path and putt weight are the two skills we'll be looking at here. My putt weight is 70 and my putt path is 73. Depending on your archetype will depend on where your putting starts. Powerhouse obviously has a limited putt weight and putt path, 64 and 67. Greensman has a slightly higher one than Rhythm. Sculpture, slightly lower than Rhythm, and Woodsman is the lowest. So Rhythm felt like a good start for me in terms of my putting. If we move into the skills section, I'm hoping this game's been out a year, most of you have your full skills by now, but if not, it doesn't matter. As you move through them, I will talk you through the ones you want to put on for putting. What I tend to do, guys, is I tend to value putt path over putt weight, but I try to put all those skills on. So this first skill is a putt path boost, definitely activate that. Second skill is another putt path boost, activate that, and that's sinking 2 putts from within 5 feet. This one is a putt weight boost, so I tend to activate that. This is missing 2 putts between 5 to 10 feet, it comes on, and it deactivates when you sink 2 putts between 5 and 10 feet. I activate another putt weight one, and this is sinking 2 putts between 5 to 10 feet, it comes on, and then score power where 2 times in a row it goes off. This one, guys, is probably the key one in here. Ignore the greenskeeper. This gives you a roll boost on the green. You do not want this to be activated, because what this means, guys, is it speeds up your green speed. So you know, a 67 will become a 70, etc, and if you're like anything like me, you won't like the faster greens. If you like the faster greens, by all means dabble in the roll boosts, but it's not for me. The next skill is another putt path skill, and the final one is you can pick whether you want roll, weight or path. In this one, again, I picked putt path. So in this one I picked putt weight because I had enough path skills activated, and you'll see in a minute why I picked weight on this one, and this will vary depending on your character archetype, which one you pick. I try to spread things evenly. So let's get into that. So what I say, guys, pick every putting skill you can afford with your skill sets, with weight and putt path, because it all helps, okay? So let's talk about what is putt weight and putt path, for those of you who don't know. So putt weight is actually the hang on, just get into my collection, into my putter. So putt weight is actually the power bar. So you know, when you pull back, if you have the power bar on, I don't play with the power bar on, but when you pull back and you can see the little white power mark, and that's a little white mark you need to hit the correct putter weight, hit 100% putter weight. That mark increases the more you up your putt weight skill. So the higher your putt weight skill, the bigger that white tolerance zone is for you to hit your perfect putt weight. Putt path is then when you pull backwards and forwards, you've got to get the line within the little grey area. Putt path, that increases the size of that grey area and then increases the size outside of that of the miss tolerance. So if you have a push or a pull on a putt or a wonky swing like I do, putt path is prevalent. So I always prefer to put putt path on. Primary reason being in that with the putt path, I have, as I said, I have such a shonky swing. My swing doesn't really impact the direction of the ball, so it'll go as I want it to go. It won't horribly skew left or horribly skew right. So I max out putt path, and you can see in my fittings I've got putt path up to 94. When my skills kick in, that is clearly well up to 100% putt path, and that's what I prefer to favour. Now putt weight, you can see, is only 73. When my skills kick in, it probably takes it up to probably in the 80s. The reason I don't put much into putt weight, so you'll see my fit-ins, I think I got 2 that are putt path increases of 1 that's a putt weight increase of only 7. And I haven't changed these since, I think these are the first 3 I won, to be fair, on this game. I've not changed them since, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But what I'm going to say to you guys is know how you putt. So I know my swing line is shonky, so I want the putt path on. Also then, I know with putt weight, I never hit 100%. I'm 44 years old. My reactions are too slow. As I said, I don't play with a little bar at the bottom of the screen, so I can't see the cursor approaching the white bit. So I don't have that hand-eye coordination piece. I have to wait for the vibration on my putter, on my controller. And every time I feel that vibration, I am always late pushing forward. My reaction skills are terrible. So this is why I don't favor putt weight, because I know as soon as I finish the vibration, if I push forward, I will hit a grey fast putt. And I build that in to all my putting from this point forward. So when I talk about things on this video, I'm talking about things set to my putting level. I will caveat them for if you do use that and you can hit 100% every time, I will say take a little bit off on the hints and tips I'm going to give you guys. But if you are like me and you always know you're going to hit what we call a grey fast, or I call a grey fast in the putting world, it's just over the 100%, 101, 102, whatever it is, percent putt, then you know you can adjust your putting accordingly. If you hit below the white, adjust accordingly. If you hit bang on the white, adjust accordingly, and I will talk you through all that. But that is why I favor path over weight, because I know I can consistently hit a weight by just pushing forward at the vibration. It'll be the same every time. It'll be a hard, faster putt. And then I know with the path that if I got a shonky swing, I got so much tolerance built in, my ball's going to go where I want it to go. And then it's just all about the read. So that's a little intro to the skills, the fit-ins, and your archetype. Hopefully that makes sense. We're going to move on next. I'm going to show you a plethora of putts I've made. These are literally over the last 2 weeks. They're all between 20 and 40 foot. And I will chuck some hints and tips up on the screen as we watch those videos. Okay, so what you're watching in the background, guys, is those putts I talked to you about. But let's start with my key hints and tips for putting. I've broken this down into 4 areas: green speed, elevation, distance from cup, and break. So we'll talk about green speed first. So the green speed range from slow to very fast. I think the very fast green speeds are 187. Fast really above 155 and above I class as fast. 155 is probably medium fast really, and then anything below that down to 100 and something, 104 I think is super slow. 130s I class as kind of slow, so kind of 100 to 125, 30 is kind of slow. 130 to 155 is kind of medium. 155 plus will be fast. So that's how I judge the green speeds. You might have your own opinions of them. Just to let you know that obviously the faster green speeds, the ball will roll more and will roll faster. That sounds obvious, but it's helpful if you're approaching and you know you have fast greens on your approach play to actually take a bit off of the yardage, because the ball will roll out. If you have slow greens, the ball will be sticky, so don't take some yardage off, and that should hopefully leave your putts a little bit closer for you. The next thing to talk about is the green speeds, how they react on the green. So when you're actually putting, faster greens will roll more, particularly downhill, but they also take more break in this version of the game. So the faster greens tend to break a lot more than the slower greens. However, the slower greens break quite a lot more at the end of a putt. So if I just explain that a little bit, when you're putting, when you're on a fast green and you're hitting a putt, the ball will roll pretty consistently because it's quite a fast pace. On the slower greens, the game tends to make you hit the ball faster at the start. So at the start of your putt, it'll take less break. As the putt slows down, the ball will pick up more of the break on the slower speeds. It will start to turn over quickly, slower, and take way more of the break. So just be cognitive that, in fact, on every putt, on any green speed, as the ball slows down, it takes more break. So if you're looking at a putt, the break at your feet won't impact the ball as much as the break at the hole. That's a fact. So bear that in mind every time you are lining up your putt, and always factor in, I think you've seen me talk about it in my videos, I call it the dip for the line at the end, like when you're doing 100 meters and everyone dips for the line. If the putt is breaking really hard at the end of the putt, that ball will turn really hard on any green speed towards the cup. So make sure you factor that in and judge where you want the ball to be as it takes that break. If we move on to elevation, make sure you take note of this in front and behind the cup. We'll come on to that in a bit. But what I tend to do is, for any elevation, I tend to say that for every inch up, I will move it out 1 foot. For every inch down, I will bring it in a foot. So if it's 8 inches up, I will put the putt 8 foot past the hole. If it's 8 inches down, I will put the putt 8 foot before the hole. Make sense? So if you have a 20-foot putt, it's 2 inches down. You should be coming into probably 18, 17 inches. Now this works for me if I have the marker, if I have the yardage on the marker. If I don't have the yardage or the footage on the marker, then I just bring it in, and by feel, you'll get used to that. A couple of clicks in seems to be a couple of feet. A couple of clicks out seems to be a couple of feet. So, as I say, if you gauge it, for me, and this, guys, goes back to my putt weight piece, because I hit everything very fast, I bring it in 1 foot for every inch. If you tend to hit things perfectly, you may not want to move it as much, but just try it, see how it feels for you, see how it works, see how it feels with your putting style. Give it a go. It tends to be a general rule, and that's probably the only rule I bring in. This doesn't actually work when you get over the yard. So when you're a yard uphill or a yard downhill, and we're not talking in inches anymore, it changes quite significantly. So uphill, I tend to move it around between 12 and 14 feet, because you've got to hit it a bit harder. And downhill, I bring it in. So let's say if it's a 20 foot downhill putt and it's 1 yard and it's one foot down, I will bring it in to maybe 10, 9 feet away from you, the marker. So, again, you can probably apply the rule. Again, a yard is probably 12 feet, if you want to call it that, and move the marker, play around with it, see how your distances feel. But certainly elevation, if you're putting downhill, guys, bring the marker right in. You do not want to be rolling miles past the hole. It's all about safety first here, making sure you leave yourself a makeable putt back if you miss the putt. And again, if it's uphill, don't leave yourself short, guys. Make sure you push the putt out enough. But just be wary of the game, its default setting. So if it's on slow greens and uphill, the game tends to set you miles past the hole, because it thinks the putt is super long. If it's a yard or 2 yards uphill, it goes wild and sends you, like, for maybe a 60-foot putt, put you 100 feet having to hit it. I tend to find that's not the case, certainly with my grey fasts. If I ever hit them at that speed, they tend to roll miles past. So just be careful of what the game is setting you up to do, and just be mindful of my advice. I certainly think, though, 2 or 3 yards uphill, you do probably want to be going between 30 and 40 feet past, depending on how you play your putts. So that's elevation. I'll just say that kind of my general rules here in elevation is, if it's 1 to 2 inch downhill, I tend to leave the marker where the game set it, just as a general rule. 2 to 10 inches downhill, I pull it back around halfway, or, as I said, depending on how far the distance is out, basically a foot for every inch. And then a foot up or down, it'll be 2/3 of the way back. So you just add in a bit more. You maybe add in 12 to 15 for every yard feet. So just general rules there, bear that in mind. The next piece is distance from the cup. So again, this boils down to your play style, but I know the further out I am from the cup, if I'm 40 feet away, I will go a lot further past 100% than if I'm 5 feet away. So if I'm pulling back on the joystick for a lot longer, I know my reaction times is a lot slower, and I will always overpower my putt. I know that for a fact, so I adjust accordingly. And also, the further away you are, the more it will take the break. But I do have a couple of general rules in my head, and you probably see me talk about it on the game. So what I tend to say is, if I'm 0 to 15 feet away, and it is just a green break, a pretty consistent green break all the way, not too fast, then it's usually within 1 box. So when I say 1 box, you see the lines either side. So the pin will always be in the middle of the first box. You'll have a white line either side of the pin. It will be within those white lines, usually the break. If it's a yellow speed break, 2 boxes. If it's a red speed break, 4 boxes. Depending on, 3 to 4 boxes, depending on how much that's breaking. That is a general rule of thumb, guys. It'll vary between the distance you are away, but at least it gives you something to work from. If you're on just a naturally breaking green break, not the 15 feet, 1 box. So keep that in mind. Again, the next rule is if you're 15 to 25 feet away and it's a normal green breaking putt, it's usually within the 2 boxes. So the second line across. If it's yellow green speed, it's usually 2 to 4, and if it's red, it's usually 4 to 6. But again, this will vary. You have to use your eye. You have to be cognitive of what's going on, and also you can have yellow, green, red, a mix. So just be wary of that and take the read as best you see it. If it's red at your feet, then green near the hole. It may not break as much as you think with the red at your feet, just because you're hitting the ball hard from your putter, obviously, as I talked about earlier. So we will go on from there. If it's 25 feet plus, you need to do 3/4 boxes, depending on the break and elevation. 3 to 4 3/4. 25 feet plus is 3 to 4 boxes for a green putt, depending on break and elevation. 5 yellow and 5 plus for red. So it really is 25 feet. You're just getting into feel. The final bit I want to talk about is the break uphill. So the break, uphill and downhill. Uphill breaks less than downhill, primarily because downhill the ball is rolling faster. Uphill you're hitting the brakes with a bit more pace, so they take less of the break, and downhill you tend to hit them with less power. As I said, I pull them in 10 to 15 feet for yards downhill, so you're hitting them with less power, so they will take more of the break. That's kind of the science behind it. So you're blasting the ones uphill, they take less break. You're tapping the ones down the hill, they're going to take more of the break because the ball is just rolling so slow. So that's pretty much all it is in terms of break. And then I'm going to finish with a few general tips for you guys. So let's just recap the 4 things to take into space: green speed, elevation, distance from cup, and break. Then some general tips on how I line up my putt. This one's going to be an obvious one. I aim for centre cup. Sounds obvious and like, oh, obvious, Matt, well done. But I found myself at times, looking at the break and trying to get the ball to roll in to the right side or the left side, depending if the break's left to right or right to left, and just doing an edge of the cup aim, which is just silly, really, if you think about it. And you tend to miss putts, but your eye can get distracted by just the edge of the cup, and you trying to make it in on the left or right edge. So, pretty obvious one: aim for centre cup. Now, I usually, and you'll see, I'll talk you through some holes. I usually aim straight away, and I don't change where I've aimed. Your natural instinct and read, and when you look at the putt straight away, where you move the marker to tends to be the right place. Every time I've moved the marker, I've missed the putt. So don't change your read. Instinct is always correct. Not always, 90% of the time. Again, as I talked about earlier, remember to know your style. If you overpower or underpower or hit perfect, adjust accordingly your style of putting. When the putt loads up, and this is a weird one, I do like a kind of magic eye puzzle in my head. It's the best way to describe it. You can kind of see the line straight away on the initial load. So as the beads all start to move, you will be able to see the line to the cup. Sounds weird, and I'll talk you through it live in a few minutes time. But I look past the hole a few boxes, do the kind of weird magic eye trick where I just use my eyes, I blur them a little, and I can kind of see the line of the putt. It sounds odd, but it does work. If you just go a couple of boxes past the hole, there will usually be a bead moving, and that bead will usually be the marker bead where I start my putt. So I will try and explain that more in some live examples. Another massive one is, guys, wait for the break to come in. The putt may load, it may look straight. a couple of minutes later, the brake will kick in if it's a really slow braking green, and you'll misread the putt. So just give it a couple of seconds. Pick your line initially, give it a couple of seconds for all the brakes to kick in. If the brakes kick in more than you originally saw, then just adjust accordingly. And the last one, guys, ghost brakes will happen. I've been bitching myself around, oh my god, why did it brake left when it was showing it right? Or why did it brake right when it was showing it left? Or that was straight and it's suddenly screwed off to the left. They will happen no matter how long you wait for green speeds to come in. You just have to accept them, guys. There are some people in the Platinum Tours, I think, who go into worm cam and scan the green for any lumps and bumps. Not my style. You can spot them, but I don't do that. But if you want to give it a go, give it a go. And that is it, guys. That is my hints and tips. So now we'll get out there and do a few live examples, but you can pretty much stop the video there. Hopefully that all helps. And if you do find it useful, please do like and please do subscribe if you're new here. Thanks all.
This is 10 feet, 9 feet to the cup, sorry, 1 inch down. So as I said, I tend to bring that in to 8 feet because I tend to hit these fast. It's 144 green speeds, so they're kind of medium green speeds. And you can see the brake, it's, as I said, they're the two lines. So the two lines I said to be between up to 10 to 15 feet, you're in this first box usually. This feels like it's braking around there. Now, how I'm gauging this really is just by eye and feel. So let's see if we can get one in the cup on the first pin. And there you go, guys. Perfect example. First hole, first birdie. And first birdie, first putt. That's within 10 feet. Next up, we'll try a 20-footer. Okay, guys, so here we are. We are 17 feet away now. So we've doubled it from 9 to 17, just about. This is 3 inches down. So as I said, I will bring that into probably around 14 feet. It has a left to right brake. Not braking much, no brake really at my feet. Starts to brake in the middle, then stops. So I think just this feels like the perfect line. Couple of clicks, probably 3 balls past the hole. Aiming for centre cup, remember. Find the bite. I will hit that grey fast, as you've just seen. 37% power, and boom, dead centre.
Last hole with that bogey got me a little scared.
Okay, so here we are, guys. We're at 30 feet away now. This is 30 feet 6 inches down. So again, I would bring this into around 24. With a 6, I like to give it just an extra 1. It feels 6 is halfway towards a foot down, so I go 23. This is braking right to left. It is no more than a green brake majority of the way, so I think it's just outside the first line. Just outside the first line would be my read. And let's see if we can make this one. This should brake. Should take the brake. And boom, there we go, guys. That's a 30-foot putt. So that concludes my putting video, guys. Look, I know it's just hints and tips, but please reach out, please comment. Please let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk through in a bit more detail, anything that didn't quite make sense. And just as always, guys, get out there, give it a go, put my hints and tips into play, and hopefully it helps someone. Peace out.